So long, blues. Outside my window this morning, birds are singing their song.
Larry McCray, a Rust Belt blues legend, was born in 1960 in Magnolia, Arkansas, and raised on a farm as the second youngest of 9 siblings. Introduced to the guitar by his sister Clara, and inspired by the Three Kings, B.B., Freddie, and Albert, McCray moved to Saginaw, Michigan, in 1972, where he honed his searing guitar style and soulful vocals. Signed as the first artist to Virgin's Point Blank Records, his 1990 debut, Ambition, fused blues, rock, and soul to critical acclaim. Over 3 decades, McCray has shared stages with icons like B.B. King, Buddy Guy, and Joe Bonamassa, releasing albums like Delta Hurricane and the 2022 comeback Blues Without You. His latest, Heartbreak City, dropped in June 2025, solidifying his enduring impact on modern blues. A Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame inductee, Larry McCray continues to captivate with his heartfelt performances. Now here's the Trout with Larry. Enjoy.
When the spirits were spent, you came along, put some bounce in my step.
Meet David Smith, your Edward Jones financial advisor. With years of experience, David's helped countless people shape their financial futures. He takes the time to understand your dreams, whether it's a secure retirement or a bold new venture, and builds a plan just for you. No matter where you are in the 48 contiguous states, David's expertise is there to guide you every step of the way. Reach out to David today at 469-372-1587. That's David Smith at 469-372-1587, your partner for financial possibilities. David Smith with Edward Jones, a proud supporter of The Trout Show. Now here's The Trout.
When I read about your bio, and I got a deep bio about you, you almost sound like a blues song.
So, well, it's been a blues life. Let me tell you, that ain't no joke.
And so I read about you, and you have, what was there, 8 or 9 of you in the family when you grew up?
Yeah, it was 9 siblings.
And so I assume your dad wanted to move to Michigan to work in the car industry because that's probably what getting out of that little town in Arkansas.
Right. But actually, it was my mother who decided to make the move. You don't know how it is, but
yeah.
In my family back in them days, sometimes the mama would put on the pants if daddy was slacking, you know what I'm saying, and take care of business. And my mother was a strong woman, a strong-willed woman, but by the same right, she was token. She was sweet and everything, and she was a good wife to my father. But, my mother was our rock. My dad was a musician, and he was sometimes big on spinning his wheels, and we'd all have to be there and fend for ourselves.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun, would it?
No.
And so when you wanted to go in the music business, they probably thought, nah, come on, dude, come on. Look at your dad.
My big sister is what inspired me to play, and I know you remember Michael Burks, Iron Man Michael Burks.
Yeah.
Well, my sister and his dad had a group together back when we was little bitty. Mike is just 2 years older than me. But his dad and my sister had a group. It was Clara and the Rockets. And Michael Burks' dad was on the bass. Brother Burks, Fred Burks was his name. They got a Fred Jr. too that plays bass. But all the people in the community call him Brother Burks. So it was Brother Burks, E.D. Mullins on keyboard, Bobby Joe Hendricks on drum, and my sister on guitar, and that was Clara and the Rockets. So when I see that as a 4 or 5 year, about a 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid, man, that just solidified me. And I would be like her. And also, my dad used to have guys that would come and sit and play music on the porch, and they would drink. They drank their booze and run all the kids off. But, we'd be checking it out from a distance. My man, old man was a hard blower, and this guy, Lewis, who had his hair slicked back. He was a black man, had his hair slicked back. He had these glasses. He always had a suit on. He was always clean and everything. And we thought the second coming of Jesus Christ had come when Huey Lewis would come to the house and play his electric guitar. That was a big thing. Yeah. This was been around about 64, 65, somewhere along in there. Yeah.
You were just a little tyke at the time. So when you started, I noticed that there was a little talk about you were in high school, started playing sax, which was pretty normal back then. How much older is your sister than you?
About 18 years.
Oh wow.
She was like my mama, my second mama. You know, my mother was one of those working mothers. You know, she worked and took care of other kids. Yep. While she was gone doing what she had to do, my big sister cooked and cleaned and took care of us. My family separated into 2 units. It was the first 5, and then it's a 12-year gap, and it was 4 more. I'm on the second half. Yeah. You know, so them older kids was like second parents to my big brother was like a second. Yeah. You know?
Sure, I understand that because. So was she, when you were born, was she already playing the guitar by that time?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what drove her though to pick it up and start playing? Was she a blues person? I read about the fact that you kind of grew up on some blues stuff in the home, but was she a blues artist? Did she like the old stuff, or what did she like?
Most definitely, and she was passed the guitar from my grandmother, from my daddy's mom. Daddy's mother was an acoustic guitar player, and as the story goes, my sister's first guitar was what they call a cigar box guitar, made on a King Edward cigar box, and that's what she started. And later, you know, they got a guitar and stuff like that. But even that was before my time. But I know of it. You know.
So you grew up, and then in fact, I was just listening to some of your music a while ago. I hear a little bit of course, you've been playing a long time. People can't escape who they were influenced by.
Right.
So I just saw Joanna Connor. I know you know Joanna because she played on something for you. Yeah. And I went down. She was here in Dallas at the guitar show, and I just interviewed her, so I wanted to meet her. And she got off stage, and I said, "I heard a little bit of something." She goes, "What's that?" "I heard little Johnny Winter there." And she goes, so when I was listening to you, I go, "I heard a little Freddie King. I heard a little Freddie King."
You know what? That was my Bible. Freddie, Albert Collins, B.B. King, and Albert King. You know, for my generation, you had to play some of all 4 of those guys if you're going to be electric blues. Yeah. And second generation, you got, for me, you know, after the 4 came Buddy Guy, Luther Allison, Otis Rush, you know, all of that, you know, that class of people from that generation. So after I dug into all that, I went back a little further and I got into Guitar Slam. I was a big fan of Mississippi Fred.
Yeah, Mississippi Fred.
I like Booker T. Lowry. You know, I like all the old stuff, but I try to draw from the old and then modernize it just enough where the people who don't really know the blues can still have the feeling of the blues, but it's palatable because it's kind of recorded on within today's parameters, if that make any sense.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, so when you talk to people about, I try to explain to people about blues and try to explain the word space to them, you know, and it's like, and you're like, there's a lot of space. What does that mean? I said, well, there's like a Hammond, a bass, a guitar, and a singer. And wasn't a lot of, you know, there wasn't a lot of fancy stuff going on. And you've been doing this so long now that you're in a groove and all that stuff. Do you still think how you grew up still influences the way you play? In other words, songs about what happened to you when you were younger?
Out in my mind that had I been raised different or had a different experience in my childhood, I know I wouldn't be the man that I am today. I owe it all to my upbringing and to my surroundings and to my parents for caring enough to try to raise us in a way that we cared. I mean, you know, I love music, and I have had a very tumultuous career, and a lot of failures. But one thing that I haven't failed at, and that's the way that I carry myself out here amongst my peers and my socialization skills. I know how to talk to people, and it's more important to me to be remembered as a good person and a good human being than it is, oh man, that guy could really play, but he was such an asshole.
Yep.
You know, I don't want that tag on me.
Yep. And I was just talking to somebody not too long ago about that whole situation. That's just said, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice back, and there's no reason not to be nice to them. I mean, they're the ones paying for your tickets, paying for you to be there. They're not going to.
As my father used to say, if you want a friend, you got to be a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a way. I mean, you think about what you do for a living, and touring is not easy. It's hard. But as many people have told me, you probably agree, when you're on stage, you forget all about the hard part. You're just enjoying yourself, doing what you're doing. Tell me a little bit about this new album, though. How did that come about? You had met Joe before. You'd worked with Joe, a few years back after COVID, or what?
After COVID, we put out a record, and then, we met the first time back in the early 90s. Must have been Joe. Joe was probably about 21 years old when I met him.
Oh, yeah.
2 years old. So, I had knew Joe. I lived in Memphis for a while.
Oh, okay.
I was in Memphis. Joe Bonamassa, Eric Gales was just getting started out. It was all kind of young people there that was playing this music. And I was right there in the thick of it. I was kind of the big brother, at the time, and so I'm out here trying to run with it, and I see all these young son girls come burning my ass down. You know what I'm saying? So it was good, and it always make you try to reinvent to try to keep up with the time. Now I don't want to be anything other than a blues player, and everything I do has to have a strong blues content to it.
Right.
But I have always had to try to adapt because I come up in a time when funk music was king. I come up with Barry Graham, Fatback Band, War, all Brass Construction, all these big funky bands, heavy bass and all this stuff. But, the songs that they were putting out was funk music, but it was heavy gospel driven.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it had a real, it was funk, but they were still singing and playing their butts off, so it was a good thing, just as you said about the space. I come up in a time when that space was very important, and each person had an assignment. If you rhythm guitar, you might just be plucking. You got a man with a chord is swing, he answering you. You got a bass player that's, laying it down for us all to jump onto, and the drummer just holding it together. Yeah. Like you said, everybody had a space, and everybody was expected to do a job. And if you got off your beat or put a hiccup in there, you done ruined the groove. So it taught us to work together and not to be separate. There's a lot of separatism on stage now, and guys want to just come on stage and show off their chops and play over the top of everything, and don't nobody want to work together.
And one of the advantages you have, you probably realize this, is being the older guy, people have respect for you.
Right.
I mean, when I see a person in our age group walk on stage, who've been playing for decades, I got respect on them. Because I know that they've been making a living. It may not have been the best thing in the world that happened to them, but they're still up there doing their thing. And yeah, so I that's the one thing, and I think that people like yourself and keeping the blues alive, quoting Joe Bonamassa, but as you grew up, I was looking at some of the music that you've done. Like years ago, you did, I guess for a somebody song, you did All Along the Watchtower for somebody. I forgot who that was for.
It was one of them compilations, during that time. John Schneider was producing a lot of records.
Oh wow!
And they had Verve, they had Indigo, and it was 2 or 3 other labels that were going at that time, and so I think it was Point Blank that put out these compilations. They did an Eric Clapton, they did a Bob Dylan, they did let me see, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Who else was it? Rolling Stones. And it was four compilations, so I got a chance to be part of all four compilations.
Well, and I think it's funny because
the motto of Point Blank, it said, "This ain't no tribute." So it was all these different artists doing their interpretation of these other artists' music.
Yeah.
So, I did Bob Dylan's Watchtower, and I kind of did it my own way,
Did you ever, you were probably too young, did you ever get to see Freddie?
Freddie come to Flint, Michigan when I was 16 years old. And my mother, I told you about my mama, she was real religious and all. And I was only 35 minutes away and she wouldn't let me go. She wouldn't let me go to the Fred. Man, dude, I cried. I wanted to see him, and then it wasn't months later that he passed. It was in 76. So I was born in 60. I was 16 years old in 76 the year he passed. So I missed him.
All right. So here's my question. Did you bring this up to your mother years later when you were your well-known blues guy? Did you say, "Mom, remember when you let me go see Freddie King?" And
you know what? I didn't. I wish I had her, though. I really do. I wish I had her. I had my mom all the way till I was about 34. So that was that was 16, 18 years after that incident, but I grew up in such a pro-religious situation and was so used to hearing the word no that it didn't faze me. I'm like, okay, well, I missed this one, but I'll catch the next one,
Well, that's if you're born in the South, what you were.
Yeah.
There's very few people I talk to that don't say, you ask them, where did they start learning how to sing? Oh, I was in church. I started playing in church.
Uh-huh.
And that's where it all comes. And but what you do is gospel related. So it all started.
The music for me, I told you about my big sister. She played in the blues band.
Right.
But she also played in the church band. So when the ladies would come over, it used to be 4 ladies that used to come over to rehearse to sing. And so, when they would come over for the church rehearsal, I caught all that too. So the gospel music really had a big influence on me. And I started singing for people when I was about 9 or 10 years old. They found out that I could sing. And the people would come over. They come here, sing something.
Yeah.
And you come out all shy, and So it started there. But what gospel really gave me was a very inspired feeling from the inside. It really, touched me emotionally, and that's what I try to emulate with my guitar. I'm a baritone. I'm limited range with my voice, but where my voice don't go, I try to go with the guitar.
I was going to say, your guitar sings for you.
With spiritual feeling. I want my guitar to speak and sing. I don't care so much about having a whole lot of chops, but I want it to be vocal, and I want my guitar to sing.
And what are you playing now? What is that you're holding?
I'm playing a Gil Polaris.
Okay, it's like it's like an SG. Looks like kind of like an SG.
It's an SG copy.
Yeah.
And the reason that I really started playing these, I played Gibson guitar my whole career.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point that right after I had got divorced, I was depressed. And the only thing that made me feel better, I found out about de-arming guitar from a Polish musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over there and I played. And he said to me, "You really like your Les Paul, did you?" I playing 57 Gold Top.
Yeah.
And, hell yeah, I like my Les Paul. He said, "Well, why don't you play de-arming? It's better." Man, I looked at that guy like he was crazy. But I come home and I found me one of them de-arming with them gold foil TV Jones pickup. It's de-arming original pickup, but he reissued the pickup. And when I found that sound, man, I put my Les Paul down for a long time and played them TV Jones. I really did. So I played de-arming for probably about 10 or 15 years just to get off of it. Then I found out that de-arming was made by Gil, and I wanted to go to the Gil classic sound. Yeah. And when they put out the Newark Street, they reissued them with the old Gil. I forget what they call it pickup, but it's just Gil version of a humbucker.
Right.
And this has a splitter on it also.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
So tell me how the splitter works.
I got it. It's on the both volume knobs.
Okay, so you pull it up. It's a
yes,
push
sir.
pull,
Yes, sir.
push pull. Yeah.
You can pull both of them.
And
Just
so, do you play which pickup do you usually leave it in? Do you like the top or you like the bottom?
I'm a switcher.
I'm
I'm a fidgeter with that toggle switch. I'm always not really fidgeting. I mean, but you go so far with one sound. If you want to spontaneously go to a different thing, then I like to flip my toggle switch.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I play all three positions. But if it's something really rocking and stuff like that, I use my down pickup, and I usually roll a little bit of the treble off, but I run my volume parts wide open. And on the top pickup, I leave it fully bright and fully wide open. I keep, for my, lead sounds up top,
Do you, because I used to play, you can see what I played right there. That's an 87. That's my favorite right there. And
Right.
There's a gold top right next to it. Anyway, I always kind of kept it in the middle. And then when I played, I would take that bottom pickup, the bridge pickup, and push it up to get that treble.
Uh-huh.
So when you're playing and you're playing and you're singing and you're doing rhythm parts, and then it's time to hit it, what do you do? Do you just kind of mess with your pot or whatever to get some boost on your lead?
No. I use pedals.
That's what I'm going to ask you. So do you use like a presser or what do you do to get boost?
I use a Klon.
Okay.
Klon Centaur. But I have a Klon Centaur now. Joe blessed me with a Klon Centaur. But before that, I was playing the Ace Effects Klon clone. A real good effect is really close. So in other words, when I try to get my lead tone, I want to have more drive than saturation. So I don't set my levels very far over when it comes to the game. I bring it about 12 o'clock. But then I get my volume right, which I set it, over my rhythm guitar setting. And I tune everything in, make sure I got a good solid lead guitar tone, and it's just off and on. Now, I set my Klon the way I set it for regular game, and when I want to put it over the top, I use Joe B's FET driver. He has a FET driver, you know the one I'm talking about?
Tell me about it.
I think it's a MXR FET, as in...
Oh, yeah, I have seen the MXR. Yeah, I have seen that,
yeah. FET driver, and it's a heavy drive pedal, but I set it with hardly any gain at all. I put it at about 9 o'clock and bring the treble up and bring the bass. It's got a real bottom end, big, broad bottom end. So I bring that up and bring the volume to where it tips just over the top of my clone. When I put both of them on together, that FET driver take it and muscle up like I'm rock guitar in, with the two together.
Did you and I grew up in the same generation, basically. Were you hesitant to jump on using pedals?
I was, because I didn't know nothing about them. I still don't really know a lot about them, but I know that less is more in the settings. And I'm always tinkering around. But I found, like I said, that Ace Effect is good, and that Bonamassa is good together, that FET driver. But before then, I have used stuff like the Boss Blues driver. I use stuff like Maxon 808 tube screamer.
Yeah, tube screamer, yeah.
I had Rocktron.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Austin Gold.
Yeah.
Austin Gold Rocktron. It's a very transparent pedal. And I used that for a long time. I used the Austin Gold. I used to be the number one. I gave away, I bet you, 3 or 4 of those pedals to guys that I was trying to help and wanted them to improve their tone. I give them an Austin Gold. And what the Austin Gold does, you can use any pedal you want for your game. All that Austin Gold do is going to just make it broader. It's not a real gainy pedal by itself, but it's a very good boost pedal for something that's already got good tone.
Have you changed your amps as you've gone through your career?
Oh, most definitely. I used to play big amps and that loud ass. No, I used to play. You remember when Gibson put out them Red Bears, them Soviet amplifiers?
Oh, yes, yes.
I had two of them on stage, two 120 Class A's.
And what do they have in a 412s, or what do they have?
412.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to use a Sardano, Hot
yeah.
Rod 50.
Yeah.
I used to use a Randall that was Bruce Native put out this thing that had all these different modules. You could get multiple amps in one brain. Do you remember that? The RM4?
I remember the Randall stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that had the pull-out modules. They had about 12 different modules, but you could load 4 at a time. And what the modules were preamps built on a slide and solder board. You know, they had everything, the whole preamp.
Oh, okay.
Put together. So you could take this preamp out. You could put a black phase. You could put a SL lead in there. You could do what is Mesa Boogie?
Oh, Mesa, yeah.
A rectifier. You know, do a rectifier sound. It had 12 modules, so you could choose 4 at a time to run in this one head, and it had a selector where you could select which amp. You know, I used to fool around with that. But you know what I stuck with the longest?
No, what?
A 71 Deluxe Reverb, 112-inch speaker. That's my amp, and once I figured out that I could get the same, I know my Deluxe Reverb so well. It has an Eminence speaker in it. I did change the speaker.
Yeah.
So I have a Eminence Red Coat Red Fang 12-inch in there.
That's because it's just got 112 in it, isn't it?
Yeah, 112.
Yeah.
I changed the rectifier to a solid state, and I put 6L6s in the power section.
Yep. Familiar with those.
I picked up probably about 10 watts out of that on that Deluxe Reverb.
Which, for the person that's listening to this, probably didn't think that's much, but on a Fender amp, that was a lot. I mean, when you put 10 watts. I mean, they weren't that big. I mean, and of course, the thing, too, with the way it is now, you don't need a big amp.
No.
The sound reinforcement is so good now.
Right.
You don't need to run. Now, right behind me.
You know what?
That's what I played out.
With the modifications that I have is louder than anything. Louder than anywhere. I don't go nowhere that I need a louder amp than that. When I go on the big stage and get lost on the stage, I have to put it in the wedges. Put it in the front wedge usually, and if that ain't enough, put it on the side. But with all what they got, it fills up. It fills up.
It is an amazing thing to see how things have changed from everybody having big amps that are taller than them to now everybody has small, because of just the way that the sound reinforcement has gone. And I think it's great because you don't have to carry a lot of big equipment like you used to, It saved my life, and my other go-to is a modified Blues Junior, which has a little bit more power and clean. What I do to my amps, I make them cleaner in the preamp stage. They still break up, but just like with my Deluxe Reverb, it used to break up around 3. 2, 3, it'd be breaking up already. Now I can push it all the way around to 5 before 5, 6 before I start getting that breakup. So it's louder and a more clarity, a cleaner tone. And if I want to break it up, then I got the stuff on the floor to break it up. And last thing about your equipment, what kind of strings do you use?
I use GXX burnished nickel 10 gauge.
Okay, and what size?
10 to 48.
Okay, 10. Okay.
10 to 46. 10 to 46.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thanks so much for stopping by and listening to the great blues legend, Larry McCray. Appreciate his time taking out. He was literally in a green room getting ready to go in to do a concert, and so we had to cut the interview short because of that reason. I apologize for that, but sometimes that's what happens in the music industry. Another band had to come in and rehearse, and so we had to cut the interview short. But I want to tell Larry thanks for his time, and I hope you enjoyed it. For more information about Larry, you can go to his website, LarryMcCrayOfficial.com, LarryMcCrayOfficial.com. talk to you about his new album he just released and where he's going to be on tour in the near future. Also, a big shout out to our guy that keeps the lights on here at the Trout Show, Mr. David Smith with Edward Jones. Thank you, David, for your continued support. For more information about the Trout Show, just visit our website at thetroutshow.com, and you can find everything you need to know about other podcasts, YouTube's music. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Texas Rocker and learn more about it. Also, you can join our email so you can get an update for what's going on with a regular newsletter that I've just started. So until next time, people, you know what I always say. It's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya.